Can I say this? Yes, I can. The libel is closing down investigative journalism across. I mean, stories I've done are, because I know it's true, about criminals. My lawyers now say we can't defend it. What do you mean? It's true. It costs an absolute fortune, millions of pounds. And the judiciary will not say anything's wrong. Here's how bad it's got, the judiciary. Roman Polanski, director, fled America to France on charges of having, child abuse, frankly, of having sex with an underage girl, and has lived in exile in France ever since. The Vanity Fair, which is a magazine that is printed in New York, is an American magazine. What's Vanity Fair? It's an American magazine. On set in Britain, but it's an American magazine. Printed some story about him saying he'd made a pass as a woman, blah, blah, blah. And he decides to sue in London. Now, here's the problem we're all getting with libel, is that libel is meant to be a defence of good reputation. If I say something absolutely outrageous, an untrue accusation about Jean or Shami, they can sue because they are women of good reputation. If I say it's about the Yorkshire Ripper, he's kind of got no reputation to lose. It's not meant to matter. It's not meant to matter. The problem with our judges is they are saying that they've thrown that out of the door. In the case of Polanski, you'd have thought, well, sorry, you're on the run for child abuse. What do you mean you can come to London, which is a country where this magazine isn't based anyway, and sue for libel? And Polanski said, no, not only do I don't actually want to come to London. I want to be able to go from video link from Paris, because if I come to London, I'll be arrested and deported to America to face charges of child abuse. And the House of Law said, well, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. You can do that, Mr. Polanski. We will help you out. Now, cases like this are happening all the time. We're trying to get, myself and I think we're getting somewhere, a big campaign against it to change life. But that's what I'm saying, sorry, that's what I'm trying to say about culture. No judge sits there and thinks, hold on a second. Here's a man who can't even come to this country to give evidence because he'll be arrested, but we're still letting him sue. Most people, journalism, as I said, freedom has its vices as well as its virtues. Most people, newspapers want to investigate are on that line between being criminal and law-abiding. You can't necessarily prove that they are absolute crooks, but they move in very, very murky areas, and we can't do it anymore. And that's because no judge ever seems to sit down and say, hold on a second, we've given loads of money to Robert Maxwell, Jeffrey Archer, George Galloway, all these people. And then when it turns out what was written about them was true, we've got to reform. That's what I mean by cultural problem within the establishment. And it's not, the Human Rights Act is actually fine. The Human Rights Act does have freedom of speech. But in some sense, laws don't do you any good.
Well, that's right.
If you don't belong for a free and assertive society.
I think that's right. The kind of higher laws that we're talking about with human rights acts and bills of rights really have to live not just in the courtroom.
Yeah.
You know, that's why a Human Rights Act or another Bill of Rights is different from, you know, a common or garden piece of legislation. It's supposed to acquire the kind of status that makes it a values instrument that has its place in people's hearts, in their homes, you know, in the newsroom, in the classroom, and whatever. And that is a real challenge for a Human Rights Act that's been denigrated in thought and word and deed by government and opposition politicians, by a lot of newspapers, I have to say, almost inevitably, because it was brought into force, you know, 11 months before 9/11. And so, and if the American Bill of Rights had been brought into force 11 months before 9/11, it would have been tested and possibly demonised in its time too.
It was actually because there was a panic in the early 1790s. And there were sedition acts and things passed, but you know that's to be expected. It's all.
But could I just say something about religion? Because we touched quite a lot on libel and free speech and so on. But Nick made another point about his second big challenge that he thought came from religious militants, and I think that's a very interesting issue worth just picking up for a second. I think that there are three choices about how to deal with the small question of religion in any society in the world. That's very prescriptive for a bleeding heart, woolly liberal like me. But not two, Not 3.5, but 3 choices about how to handle this small question of religion. Choice number 1, pick your favourite religion. Pick a number between 1 and 10. Pick any number, pick any religion, your favourite one, and give it primacy over all other belief systems in the land. Interweave it in the state and in the legal system, and it shall be supreme. Extreme example: Afghanistan under the Taliban, perhaps. More moderate example, anyone? Yeah. This country at certain arguably this country at certain stages in its development. Option number 2 is you'd think the opposite, but actually not that different in a way, which is to say this is all dangerous, divisive, mumbo jumbo, and we just cannot countenance it here. We will not have it here, and we will, if we can, wipe it out. And if we can't, we will completely chase it out of the public sphere, into the private sphere, perhaps into a religious place, or into the home, up in the bedroom, under the bed, with the pornography. Extreme example, Soviet Union. More moderate example, the French Republic. These people ask that you must be at a literary festival or something. This is not what I'm used. This is not the kind of audience that I'm used to, but I'm liking it. I'm loving it. And guess what? From the way that I've caricatured both positions, I don't think that either are the natural position of the human rights advocate. And to me, I think that freedom of thought, conscience and religion, like free speech, like the right not to be tortured, like all the others in their place, is incredibly important. And of course in Britain, it's been part of the struggle for democracy itself. And it's the right to the faith of your choice. It's the right, crucially, to have no faith, and perhaps most important of all, as in Beheshti, the right to be a heretic within your own religious community. And so I would say that we want religion to have neither privileged nor punished status in our society, but equally we interfere when it's necessary, only when it's necessary and proportionate to protect other people. So poor Nadia Awada, who was working for British Airways and wanted to wear her simple cross to work, and they told her she couldn't because rules is rules is rules. That was one of the days when I was proudly quoted in the Sun newspaper, yes, the Sun newspaper, calling this bonkers because it was. And our client at Liberties, Sarika Singh, who wanted to wear her Sikh Kara to school, she wasn't hurting anyone else. Yeah, and it's for those who interfere to justify, rather than the individuals to constantly justify their little bit of difference and their little bit of personal space. And that is my towering contribution to these great big debates about, must we choose? We must choose between logic and reason. These great giants, logic and reason, science and emotion. Guess what? We're human beings, and both sides of this are part of the picture.
Can I just ask one more question, and then we'll open it up to the audience? I think what you're proposing is a Bill of Rights and Responsibilities, and the responsibilities seems to me the very interesting new child.
No, what I'm not proposing, what I'm opposing, but this hasn't been the sort of fierce enough debate. So let's be clear. I'm the defending and promoting the Human Rights Act, not just as a box of lawyers' tricks, as Nick would see it, but as he says, culturally. So that we live the values.
Did I say it was box of lawyers' tricks? I don't remember.
I would see it. I'm just